Hi, my name is Dorcas. I wear many hats, but today the hat I'm wearing is that of mental health advocate, mental wellness and wholeness advocate. And yeah, I'm here to share my story of how my mental health journey has been and hopefully encourage someone or at least educate someone. Yeah, or maybe inspire someone or entertain someone. Yes.
Okay, nice to have you. In terms of mental health, maybe you can let us know, what do you know about mental health? Are you well versed with it, or is it after maybe you had a brush with it, that's when you realized, okay, this is what mental health is?
So my expertise in mental health rather, is from personal experience. I am not a trained counselor. I'm not a trained psychologist, though I hope to maybe do some training, get some training in future. But really, it's because I have worn the shoe. I know how it pinches, and so, and I know that I'm not the only person who wears this shoe. So the only difference is that I've chosen to share my story and use it to encourage other people to create awareness and to change the conversations around mental health. And also, for me, I'm passionate about therapy. I want to normalize therapy such that the way we have a headache and someone just goes and takes a Panadol without having to think twice. I want to make it therapy as common as that, because really, we all need therapy at different times and through different circumstances. And yeah, for me, that really is how I got to know about mental health, because I happened to suffer through a season where my mental health was not very well, I was not doing very well mentally. And for the longest, I did not understand why I was behaving the way I was behaving, why I was doing the things I was doing, why someone would just do something very small that would blow up on them, why I was not able, I was overcommitting myself, for example, why I was finding myself very exhausted because I had trained myself, I had learned to be there for everybody else, but not for me. And how come when I am having an issue, I don't have a Dorcas for Dorcas.
Yeah, you don't have a
There's no
Dorcas
Dorcas for Dorcas, but Dorcas is there for everybody else. Dorcas is everybody else's champion. She's everybody else's cheerleader. She's everybody else's support system, shoulder to cry on. But when now she needs that, there's no one for her. And she finds herself on her own. And then part of also what made me realize there was a problem was because I think around 2010, I started, basically, I'm not tired, I'm not sleepy, but I would basically snooze my phone the whole day and be in bed. And every snooze, the intention was the next one, I'll get out. The next one, I'll come out of bed. The next one, I'll go and do what needs to be done. And then also, I would also have episodes. Then I was working, and there are days when I would just go to the office, and there's nothing I would do that day. Even if I needed to be productive, even if I had deadlines, or even if I had timelines, I would simply not be able to function. So that day I would just sit on the computer, be on Facebook, move around, but anything productive, nothing happens. So those are some of the things that made me realize really there was a problem.
That something is up.
That something is up. And then for the longest time, I had this chronic fatigue. My shoulders were aching. It was the kind of pain where I couldn't ignore it anymore. I would sleep and wake up tired. And I'm like, what's wrong? This is not the Dorcas I know. The Dorcas I know is high energy. She's there for everybody. How come now she can barely carry herself? But I think what really made me, eventually accept that there was a problem and I needed to see a therapist is my former boss and mentor. His name is Sam. And Sam, at that time, his mom was unwell. She was really suffering, went through breast cancer. And then, so he was involved in giving her, taking care of her, being there for her, being her support system. And then eventually she passed on. And for him, when he went through a season of depression, that's when he understood. That's when he remembered, this girl used to do this, this girl used to do the other. And so and I remember one time, because even after I left his employment, I left his mini, we still are friends and we still remain friends. So one time you're having lunch and he's like, by the way, you need to see someone, you need to see a professional. Because I have gone through, I now know what it is you are going through. And for me, therapy has really worked. Around this time, that is around 2014, 2013 is when I had gone through my worst season, my lowest season. And I knew there was something wrong. I was certain there was something wrong. And actually, at that point, I joined River of God Church, and we had a resident counselor, Pastor Jody, who is now in Australia. She went back home. And I'd even asked for her number, because her policy was, if you need help, you need to see her, she doesn't call you. You get her number, and then you call. Because therapy doesn't work unless
you're willing.
Yes. So, for the whole of 2013, which was a really, really difficult, really one of my darkest seasons, I had her number, but I hadn't called. And I would see her on Sunday and be like, I need to call. But I never did call. So this conversation, I think, was the final impetus I needed. And for him to have come and shared his story with me, he didn't go into too much detail, but he told me, when I lost my mom, I went through this, and this helped.
This helped me.
Yes. And so I started therapy in 2014.
Okay.
I keep saying therapy for me, season 1 was understanding why. Was understanding me, who is Dorcas, understanding why I do the things I do. Was understanding how comes one day I am very high energy and the next I can barely get out of bed. And it was a pretty interesting time, because when I went to therapy, I became self-aware. I knew who Dorcas is. And then I also knew some of the things that I did that I thought, well, because I'm cool, I'm generous. Mimi ni ule mtu wa watu. Kumbe, it's because I don't prioritize myself. It's because I'm codependent. It's because the only way I think people will love me and value me is if I am there for them.
I'm doing that. Sorry, yes. Dorcas, allow me to cut you.
Yes.
When we started, like a joke, I said you were my twin. And sitting here,
hi, Twinnie.
Hey, Twinnie. I am feeling so emotional because everything you're saying is like you. It's like you live my life. Yeah, it's like you're Jeff, you're me. I have gone through that step by step by step, and I was just fighting back tears because, for once, I hear somebody say that I've gone through what you've gone through, and I know that it's not easy to have this kind of a conversation.
Yes,
but maybe you could take us back to even before you went for therapy.
Yes,
how was your life like before you even realized that, okay, I'm going through something here, I'm not okay, I need help?
Okay. My life was pretty normal. I am an only girl in a family of 3 and the last born. So I have 2 older brothers. So of course I'm daddy's girl. And high school, primary, nothing major. Nothing. I wouldn't say I had any major traumatic childhood experience that would have contributed to what I went through. But I think one of the things that for me stands out is I look back now and I realize I started struggling from as early as 13.
Okay.
Yes, because when I went to high school, the high school I went to was the one my dad wanted me to go to, because the principal of that, the founder of the school, was his principal in high school.
Okay.
It was an American-run school, Materi Girls, and it was a very, very open system, no rules. Basically, use your common sense. But I can't it's still something I'm trying to figure out why I had such low self-esteem. And I remember for the first 2 semesters of my Form 1, I did not feel worthy enough to walk on the same pavement. As in, if I saw anyone, whether my classmate, whether an older student, coming the other side of the pavement, I would literally step down because I was not worthy to walk the same pavement as them. And how I managed to get out of that was because of a friend of mine called a girl called Eddie Patroness Jero. She was in Form 2, I was in Form 1. And then 2 things happened. 1, I got accepted into the music team. And then 2, Eddie became my friend. And somehow, Eddie, who is a Form 2 student, choosing to befriend a mono like me was all the validation I needed to feel like I was worthy. But I struggled with low self-esteem throughout high school. And then I'm very smart. I'm very intelligent. I'm above average, humbly. But also, I'm sanguine. And I think in high school, my sanguine self was very active. So I struggled with discipline. Not discipline of acting up or anything. It's just discipline of studying and putting in the work. And remember, I was in music, which meant every year from Form 1 to Form 3, second term was practically a quarter in class, the other quarter is practice and the works. And so I never quite performed to my potential.
Okay.
And I knew it. At the back of my mind, I always knew, you're better than this. And then my dad was is a philosopher. So you'd sit down and you'd be like, Kaki surely. There's no way one head can give 7 A's in arts and languages and then 4 D's in maths and sciences. It doesn't make sense. This is clearly an attitude problem. But hey, I was young. And at that point, I was young and stupid. Yeah. So this continued throughout. But it would have waves. And it would come in and out, come in and out, come in and out. And one thing that for me is my story is I know the power of words.
Okay.
I know words can hurt, words can wound, words can kill. And at times a word spoken in careless, in anger, or just, at times I will just like throwing words around. And you don't realize the impact it has, especially when someone is younger, during those formative years. And so we continue. Gaki finishes high school. Gaki comes to Nairobi. I do well enough because at Form 4 first term, I did so badly. I think I did the worst. And I was ready. I was ready to admit, own up, and tell my parents, I'm sorry. I have wasted 3 years of your money and my time. If you guys, my dad is a teacher, was a teacher, but now retired. If you get me a school, then I'll go back. Even if you tell me to go back to Form 2, I have no problem. But I challenged myself and I was like, hey, come on, you can't give up before you try. So Form 4 second term, my lifestyle changed. Remember, I still have my strengths. So I started studying with now the top 5 in class. It would be in the same discussion group. Top 5, and then Dorcas is bottom. And so I managed to do well enough, not qualify for uni per se, but at least well enough for my father to be like, well, this is a good enough grade. Because if you had said it's not good enough, I would have gone back. Yeah. So those are some of the experiences that built up to now 2008 and me needing therapy and me realizing there's a problem because I was codependent, like I mentioned. I was a people pleaser. You know, anything for... And I needed, the only way I thought people could love me and people would appreciate me and people would value me is by me being there for them. And by being there for them is basically flat, envelope, kanyaga, fanya venye unataka. As long as you're my friend and I'm in your circle, then I'm good enough. So I don't have the traditional trauma story. Yes.
And that's why it's important that we share.
Yes.
I kid you not, I said you're my twin. Everything you've said aligns with my life too. I also do not have a trauma story.
Yeah.
I grew up in a 2-parent household.
Thank you.
We're very stable.
Thank you.
Intelligent.
Yeah.
You know, you could do more.
Basically, you're the star who is not starring.
Who's not the star.
Who's not shining the way you're supposed to be shining, according to,
according to the standards set.
Yes.
So at what point as an adult now, of course now you've carried this baggage, like I like to call it, from your teenage years, and now you're an adult. So at what point do you now go through this, I like to call it like an awakening, and realize that, okay, Dorcas is not Dorcasing.
Yes.
I have this image that I show that I'm okay, but I'm really not okay.
Yeah.
And there's something also very important you said there that I want you to touch on. You said therapy season 1.
Yes.
So then I'd like to know how we got into the seasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So around 2008, I knew I was in trouble. I knew there was something wrong. I couldn't just quite put my finger on it. I am high energy. So basically, I knew how to have the face
cover.
on. Yes. At that point, I didn't know what it was. And then some things in my life were working. And then other things were not. But I think, so 2010, I get a job in 2008. I finished college in 2007, which there's a whole story there, but we'll not touch on it today because I was meant to graduate in 2005.
Okay.
Self-sabotage. But anyway, so I graduated in 2007 and is very ready for a job. But Dorcas makes a decision. For the last 2 years of her life, she's had experience in media.
Okay.
Ideally, she should pursue a career in media because that's where she has experience, that's where she has networks, that's where she has connections. But Dorcas has a passion for community development and feels that she needs to go and serve the people and her God. So she takes a 360-degree turn and starts looking for a job, not internship, a job in the NGO world. Unfortunately, no job was forthcoming because my experience is in media, yet I want to work in community development. And I was not willing to now put in the 1 year or 6 months of internship without pay that would eventually lead to work. So anywho, so eventually I get a job in 2008 with a Christian foundation prisons ministry called Philemon Foundation. I go there as a program officer or manager. And it's a young organization. It does prisons, so it ticks all my boxes. Okay, other than the money box, but hey, money will eventually come, you know. Money follows passion. So I'm really happy. First, the organization gives young Dorcas with no experience an opportunity to prove herself. And so we're doing 2009, we're doing well. Okay. And then around December 2009, we start having conflict with my then boss. Okay. And by April of 2010, Dorcas is no longer working. She has been fired. But now what I did not realize then that I learned through therapy season 1 was a lot of my hopes and dreams, and this was not just a job for me, you know. It fit, like I said, it ticked all my boxes. And well, the money wasn't great. I knew it would eventually come because it was a good vision. You know, we had a good board. We had a good story. The founder was an ex-prisoner himself. So basically the groundwork for takeoff was there. And so with now this death that came in the form of firing, one, my hopes, my dreams, my aspirations, my life, my career was figured out. I knew I'd not be the founder because, hey, I've not been to prison yet, and I hope not. And so I knew I'd never be the founder, I would never be the CEO, but I knew I'd be a very strong deputy manager and in charge of programs. And basically, I would be able to function and thrive in this space because it was meeting my need to serve the community. It was a Christian organization, so we are serving the kingdom. And yeah, so when that happened, I did not realize it then that that was also now additional baggage to what I was already carrying.
Had
yes,
from high school, and now
from high school and layer. My child. Yeah. So now I have another layer where I had a dream. It was not really my dream. It was a shared dream. But I was very clear on where, you know, there was a whole box. I could go and show you where Dorcas slots in. You see? And then that has been taken away under circumstances, and we don't need to go into the details. And so now Dorcas goes back to square zero. Yes, she delayed in graduating. If she had graduated in 2005, she would have gotten employed in Safaricom in 2006, and the perfect career would have taken off. Dorcas is also getting older. She's about to hit 30. When Dorcas was in college, she had a plan for her life. Graduate at 23, 24. By then, be seriously dating. Get married at 25, latest 26. Have the children. They were going to be 3. By 30, so that after 30, hit the gym, look nice, and walk around with the children. And then people are like, oh, are these you? Are these yours? And you're like, yes. Well, it's okay. You're like, oh. So, you know. So one, yes, the graduation has not happened when it should have happened, but it does. And then the husband is not husbanding. No one is seeming to, or the ones who are, it doesn't go well. So now, as far as Dorcas is concerned, she's a failure. She's a failure because number one, remember, she did not graduate and get the dream career. Okay. Because we were told, go to school, study hard, go to university, get employed.
So, and it's on a straight line.
It's linear. There is no, you know. So, at least if Dorcas had gotten married, then we'd be like, well, she's not doing well, too well career-wise, but at least she has a husband and maybe a mother of 1 or 2. So, and then now with 2010, now that at least now the career one was seeming to be aligning, and then that goes.
Wow.
So by the time Dorcas hits 30, she is the definition. In her mind, she is the definition of failure. She's the definition of disappointment. She's a letdown. Not so much in any other person's eyes or mind, but in our own. Because...
Wow. I am so happy you said that.
Yeah.
Because it's not any other person saying that to you.
No.
But it's what you're saying to yourself.
Yes.
So I was just saying that it is profound.
Yes.
That these expectations are normally not from outside. It's the self-conversations,
yes.
the self-expectations,
yes.
and we take our thoughts and then we now make it our reality.
Yes.
So in our thought, we are a failure.
Yes.
And then we make our reality a failure.
True.
So
now, Dorcas is 30 and a failure, despite having, significant achievements. She's set up a women's program at Philemon. That today the people they AT empowered are still running the businesses that we set up for them. She's helped the founder win a significant grant with TFAD. She has been involved in different small-scale, projects here and there. But in her mind, she is a failure.
And it's not good enough for Dorcas.
No, it's not. Because remember, there was a script. And now, if, like I said, if at least we had ticked one box, then ingekuwa 50-50. Glass half full. Now this glass is not just empty, it is turned upside down alafu. Yeah, so my 30th birthday is still... I think I am intentional about celebrating my birthdays in my 4th decade to compensate for what I did not do for myself in my 30s. So at this point now, this is 2002. It's also now, remember 2010, we started showing the symptoms of the depression. And it keeps, of course, with accumulation, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And while Dorcas is still high energy, Dorcas is still life of the party, Dorcas is still showing up for other people, it's still wearing, it's still wearing her out. It's still eating her up. It's still getting her to a point where she can no longer function normally. And so 2013 is when I say was my lowest. It's when I would wake up. I think I mentioned this in church, and I say I would wake up and ask the Lord, seriously, you've not realized there's somebody down here wasting your oxygen? You call their number. At least niache kukuwaste oxygen yako, because after all, there's nothing of value, or there's no value I'm adding.
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
At that moment,
yes,
did you call it by its name? Did you say this is depression, or you just feel like...
I did not know.
You didn't even know.
I didn't know. I just knew I can barely, at times there are days I could barely get out of bed, And then at that point I was living with someone, which made the situation a lot more worse, because now this person doesn't understand what I'm going through. In their mind, I'm just lazy, lacking ambition. Why can't I go out and hustle? Why can't I go out look for jobs?
Like
I am just comfortable, nikikula, not in a word, but nikikula chakula yake, because life was pretty good, So this person did not have the understanding to know what it is I was going through, because maybe if they had, then they would have been like, hey, by the way, you need to go talk to someone. But remember, as we were sharing earlier, part of the problem is because this animal called depression has not been well defined for the longest time. It's always been there. In African culture, there were even systems and structures in place without naming
it being called depression.
Yes. So We have lunch with Sam. He tells me we have a problem. Eventually, I go see Pastor Jody and start therapy season 1. And season 1, really, by the time I was going to therapy, I was at negative probably 60, maybe 50 if I'm being kind to myself. So the most Jody did was to get me to 0 and plus. Because by the time I was going to her, I remember for the longest, the struggle was her trying to dig, because she thought I had suppressed memory of childhood sexual abuse, because trauma. Basically, it was the signs or whatever it is that I was exhibiting were of a sexually abused person. Yet, honestly, I remember, I tried. I have a very good memory. I keep warning guys, don't promise me something you are not planning to deliver, because I won't forget. I will remind you, even if it is 2 years down the line, like, by the way, na ulisema, na ukufanya. So that is what now, therapy season 1 was about discovering who Dorcas is and who Dorcas is not. Because remember, during this time and during this journey, it got somewhere where the concept of Dorcas became like the false. The real Dorcas became false, and the false Dorcas became real. So now Dorcas is, there are two I have interchanged. And for the longest time, me being me, the things that I know make me, the life of the party, the high energy, the able to do 1,000,001 things, was now in my mind, was wrong, was not acceptable. And the false me became now the dominant personality. So I learned to be in places, like I said, when I'm at my element, there's no way you will meet me and not remember me, So I learned how the art of disappearing in public. You're in a public gathering, but when photos are being taken, remember what is there to take. You somehow hide. When conversations are being had, you somehow hide. My dad says there's a way I would lower my head. Because I asked him, I was like, didn't you see? And he's like, yeah, there's a way I would lower my head. And he knew that was not normal. But he's a father, and this is his girl. Men struggle with when their little girls are going through issues, So I go into therapy season 1, but remember, part of therapy is also discovering uncomfortable truths about yourself.
Correct.
And so, some of the things I thought made me Deputy Jesus. Kumbe, it's codependency. Kumbe, it's these things, it's learned behavior that is not actually healthy.
Could you please, in your own words, explain to us what codependency means?
Codependency is where you derive your sense of value and your sense of worth from people needing you.
And sometimes you can go on ahead and create the environment where they need you.
Yeah. So that's why it's very easy for codependents to attract wounded and hurt and struggling people, because we are working so hard to fix them without realizing we actually are the ones who need the fixing. Once we are whole, once we are well, then the rest will be, So, and of course, coming from an African setup, the usual African things that we love. We normally, no boundaries, probably issues with, black tax, for lack of a better word, where, yes, you're a child, but still there's an expectation. Because for the longest time, I carried my failure, not because for me, it's because I'd failed. I had failed my parents. I'm the most educated in my family. I'm the one who had gone to school, college. My father had put me through parallel, not even the regular degree program. He'd made many sacrifices. And then here I am coming out and not following, and things not happening the way they're supposed to happen. Then I get a nice job. Then at least now he has the prestige of saying my daughter works at so and so. Or at least you're able now to chip in. And like I said, my parents were teachers. So really, it's not like they were financially dependent on me. But there's that expectation at the back of my mind that I am supposed to do these things. Kwani somebody goes to university so that you come back
and help out the family. And
so all these things, and now me having conversations with Jody, who was Australian, and telling me, no, that's not healthy. You are responsible for you. You are not responsible for them. And I remember one statement she made that has stuck to me to date is that when you change, when I change, everyone else will change. And I can tell you that has been the case. When I started setting healthy boundaries, it took a while, but eventually now they learned to, because my mom would call and be like, hi, I need money. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not in a position to. She's like, kopa, nitalipa. As she's saying kopa, nitalipa, I know she won't pay, so it's me who has to pay. Remember, we are 3 of us. I'm the youngest. I have older brothers. So one time she calls and I'm like, Mom, sina. And then I'm like, umeongea na... I reminded her, for your information, we are 3 of us.
Umejaribu na huko.
And then she's like, nimewapigia hawana. So I was like, Allah. Then they're allowed not to have money. Ujawaambia wakope venye unaniambianga nikope utalipa. And you see, that was communication to my mother. Because I am her only daughter, I understand that. But now, I was suffering because I am a woman, I understand. Anytime she needs anything, I'm the easiest person for her to reach out. She's like, oh, you're not like your brothers, you understand.
You understand.
Yes.
Loosely translated to, you will accept.
Yes.
If I whatever requirement I have of you, you would accept.
It's okay. My brothers can be, quote unquote, irresponsible. But I can't. Because they can be called, and it is okay for them not to be in a position to assist. But Raki does not have that privilege. Raki, whatever it takes to sort mom, or to sort dad, or to sort whoever, and like I'm saying, I'm not saying I have very privileged. I'm not one of those people who came from families where literally the financial future and survival of their family depended on them. That is not me. I am a child of teachers.
I totally understand you.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, like I've said, I can relate bits and pieces of what you're saying to my own experience. And I truly hope that also our audience can be able to understand you. Because for me, it's very clear what you're trying to say. Yeah. And I can also see sometimes the distortment that might come also sometimes with what you're trying to say.
Yes.
But let me ask you, when Pastor Jody now told you that, okay, Kaki, you have to have boundaries. Not everything that is requested you have to accept. How are your boundaries received?
Oh, do we have time?
Yes, we do. Please, let's go
Are
there.
You sure we have time?
Yes, let's go there.
Well, in the African context, when we set boundaries, we start being told, sisi tumeanza kuwa na maringo. We are being difficult. We are being unavailable. Yeah. Because all along, remember, the persona that existed was serving everybody else except
yourself.
Okay? So at times I would get in trouble for overcommitting myself. Because I said yes to Judy, I said yes to Doris, I said yes to Ken, I said yes to, without realizing all these things are happening on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So when the day comes, Dorcas is in trouble because now will she show up for Judy or Ken or Doris or Beth? And when now she disappoints one, nobody wants to understand the situation, how Dorcas got herself there. You see? So when I started setting boundaries, my friend, it is a battle that I have not yet won. Because, like I said, now the whole conversation changes. I remember when I learned that no is a perfectly full answer, does not need any explanation. No. Thank you. Maybe thank you is a courtesy, but no is
enough.
Is enough. And I learned now to even now, before I commit, I would be like, let me check. I will confirm. Because if at that point I don't even think we had Google Calendar, thank God now for Google Calendar, you can always slot in your events and be able to see. So I think the hardest hit was my mom because she couldn't understand what. But also there's a season in my life because of being codependent and because of being a people pleaser, as being there for everybody else except the people I needed to be there for. So anytime my mom would call, I'll be like, oh mom, Siju who is getting married, Siju what is happening, Siju, there was always a story. And she wondered, guy, now this daughter of mine, who am I supposed to call? Mimi niwa, who am I?
Yeah.
Because I was too busy
you're
taking care of everybody else and not prioritizing myself or prioritizing those I needed to prioritize. And remember, resources are limited. So setting boundaries has been a continuous struggle. There are times there's been a bit of pushback. But I think once you're clear on your why you need healthy boundaries, once you're clear on why your no is enough and does not need any explanation, once you're clear on why you need to prioritize yourself, and it's okay to prioritize yourself, then it tends to get easier with time. And I remember, I think 2 weeks ago, I remember telling my therapist, my now current therapist, that I realized I was sliding back to some of my old habits. Because they never die, they're still there. You just need to now continuously keep working at the boundaries, at prioritizing yourself, at putting you first, at having healthy relationships, at realizing you cannot even be there for everybody.
Yes.
So it's still a struggle, but hey, we keep going. That's why we need the tribe to keep encouraging each other. And you're like, hi, you're like, imagine, you're like, we laugh. And life continues. Because, hey, what else are we to do?
True.
Yeah.
And I know you coined it therapy season 1.
Yes.
And so I'm assuming, or rather let me take you down a narrative and correct me.
Yes.
You've gone through this. You've gone through the first major, I will say, episode or brush with depression.
Yes.
You've gone for therapy with Pastor Jody, and your life is supposed to be perfect now.
How I wish. I see my Facebook posts from then because I am a very strong choleric. I am performance oriented. I need results. And results for me is not half baked. It's not nusumukeka won't do. Going through therapy and coming out means I am whole. I am well. And I could see, I see those posts now when my Facebook memories, and I can see the girl behind that. She really desperately wanted to be well. Unfortunately, this was just the beginning of the journey. This was we were just touched. We didn't even get to the real issues with Jody. We just touched. We just brought Dorcas back to zero.
Because you are negative.
Yes.
And now you're back to ground level.
Now, the process of 0 to 40, at 50, right now maybe you're dancing at 55, 60. on good days, and then those days we get down to 40 and 35, it's still an ongoing process. But I so desperately wanted to be well. I so desperately wanted to be whole. I so desperately wanted to go back. Not go back to my old self, but not the old whole version, but that person, that Dorcas that for the last almost 10 plus years
Was it comfortable?
Absolutely not. Because now what would happen is I would have now seasons. I would have ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. But it never quite got as bad as before. Because remember, now I have the knowledge. Now I have the information. Now I am empowered. I understand this. Oh, that's why. You see? And I remember one of the best things that happened to me was I got a job with an organization, another Christian organization called Edumed Trust. And Edumed Trust 2014, they ran the Cake Festival. They use it as their main fundraising activity to get funds to sponsor needy children through high school. To date, Cake Festival 2014, I set the record for the highest ticket sales. Pre-event. We sold over 1,000 tickets. And this is still Dorcas, who at that point I'm not even sure if I had gone for therapy. I started therapy. But being part of that experience, seeing us do it on a wing and a prayer, because literally we would pray and hold hands and trust God and go out and execute. It was still one of the best cake festivals. And still, for me, that is still one of the things I'm like, wow, you were there and you did that. Kudos, girl. So the other thing that Edumed did was it created an environment that could bear with me. I keep saying Dorcas of 2015 to 2017, even that Dorcas, I would have fired her, not even by maybe suffer through 3 months, maximum 3 months. Watch jokes. Because now, I have gone to therapy. I have known the problem. But at that point, 2015, later 2014 actually, or 2015, sometime there is when I go to therapy now. And there are days when I would wake up and shower and even go and put the shoes on the door and pick the bag, the one I'm going to work with, and then come and sit here and then switch on the TV and spend the whole day there. I remember I'm expected at work. Remember I am working on the days worked contract, not monthly contract, whether I show up or not. Remember, there are things that I have deliverables. But somehow, the Lord graced them, because it's the Lord who graced them to be patient with me and be understanding and extend extra grace to me during that season. Because I don't know.
What was going on during that season?
I think, remember we never got to deal with the root issues. And those root issues were still there. Remember, Dorcas is getting older. She's now in her 30s. And the plan...
Yeah, the plan is still there.
The plan, well, at least we keep encouraging ourselves. We'll not get to 35. Let's not get to 35 and still single and not having children, And also because after Philemon, I never quite got a steady job. But also because part of that was because I discovered business around this time. And went into business and did milk and discovered kumbe business is not what we were told. It's not for failures and people who are not smart. So intentionally, I'd never really went out and looked for a nice, well-paying, steady job because I just needed ya kushikilia as
you were getting by.
as I go into business. So the root issues are still there.
And so that's how come maybe they could show up
Yes.
here and there.
Yes.
Even though we've dealt with, the baggage that we had, the failures that we've had across along the way. But because you had not gone in therapy season 1, you had not gone down to the roots.
Yes.
Then the roots were still showing up in your life.
Yes. And remember, what I need to mention is that I was a very, very bad patient. Therapy season 1. I was a therapist nightmare. I didn't keep time. At times I did not show up and not communicate. Yet, so as in this one, me, I'm an A student. That one, I was a E student. Even the little that we managed to do is really testament to Jodi's professionalism and expertise and experience also. So now, and then the time now I was ready to come back, Jodi fell ill.
Okay.
And we couldn't continue. And as you know, with therapy, it's very hard to start with somebody and then katikati, So those are some of the things now contributed to now these episodes through 2015, through 2016, to 2017. So I think one thing I've learned with depression is there's a season when you take 1 step forward and 3 steps backwards. Then you take another step forward and another 3 backwards. And it's a very frustrating season because you want to be done with this thing. You want to be able to tick.
You almost want to go back to you as you think that was the best you.
Yes.
And because this thing is like a burden and it's holding you down, sometimes their best us was actually the most dysfunctional us.
Yeah.
But in a way, whenever you're going through therapy you almost want to go back to that you.
Yeah. Yet that is not the healed.
That is not, yes.
The healed version.
Something that I've done with myself is to try and ask myself, at what point in my life was I my best? Was I healed? What point would that be for you? Have you ever gone back like that?
The year of the innocence. Wow. Probably has to be my early teens. Because from then, really, things started accumulating. And my early 20s weren't as bad as I would want to imagine. They weren't too bad. Yeah, they were not as bad. I was in high school. I was in college. I was living the dream. I think 2 or 4, I went to uni. I started living with my cousin. Did the crazy life. So I would say really, but still, the underlying issues were always there. Because you see, I call depression the monkey on our back. It doesn't, even if you don't see it, it's always there. Just needs the right environment and it will show up. So, fast forward to 2020.
Okay.
And how we got here. 2020 February, before COVID, I got a job. By then, I've transitioned to business. And then 2018, given myself a challenge, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to look for work. Even if somebody sends me a job I'm qualified for, I will not apply. I was very intentional. I'm giving myself 1 year. I'm going to do business full time. And then I decide to throw myself in the middle of the ocean and go into something very, very far away. Nothing comfortable like media, going back to journalism. I would become nothing. I went and started a fresh produce business.
Okay.
And went and got a kibanda in the soko. And became msichana demu wa soko. Mimi na kizungu yangu mingi. I would talk to those guys.
Huko unafeel ni kama umejishusha, because I mean umeenda kole Dorcas.
I know.
Ukaweka makaratasi chini ukaenda kuuza kwa soko.
Yeah, my friend told my dad, me in the presence of my dad, that I did not need to go to university to go and sell Nduma. Yes. So, why did I do that? I was very clear. At this point, I'd become a serious starter and dropper.
Okay.
The biasharas have started, which if I just stuck through,
you'd have been far.
Tungekutana nini, I would have sponsored you via Rosa Kempinski, my friend. Imagine. So, I did China before China became fashionable. I was among the early, the first guys in always make the most money. In fact, the
Dorcas,
people, yes,
you are tagging at my...
What?
I did Dubai.
You did Dubai?
Yes, back then. 2014. And what you said is just right. The first people in are the first two.
Yeah.
And the word you used, I have been looking for that word, I never found it. Serial starter, serial dropper.
Yes. So, China, for me, I am very particular about how I do my things. One, I value my name. And I hate embarrassment. That's not me. So, the people who we were importing through, were not as concerned about quality. Remember, expectations is everything. The minute a customer has seen a photo, they expect that thing to come exact. Without the photo, you're fine. But you see now how we do market? Na hizi vitu ziko high seas, zina land in a month or two. So I realized unless I was able to order directly and be able to go through the process of trial and error until I settle on a quality supplier, then I would be in trouble, because it would mean there is always stuff that would come that would not be to my standard and to my expectation. And because I can't pass it on to my customer, it's me who has to bear. So China died. I didn't touch. Started going to Gikosh, curtains, shears, carpets. Pia hiyo ikakunywa maji. Not for any other reason. I'm impatient. I want quick results. I don't have stick through. The ability to stick to something until it either works or clearly does not work. And then when it clearly does not work, there's no temptation to go back.
But because you've exhausted it, you're sure.
Because remember, from 2014, I am not looking for a good job. I just need ya kushikili as biashara ikinini. So I have messed myself twice. Because if I'd gotten the job, then I would have gotten the capital to do the business. Okay? I would have given myself maybe say 3, 4, 5 years. Tell myself within that time, set myself targets, achieve them, so that by the time now I'm coming to business, I do it the right way, where you have the 6 months egg nest, you have the investments, you have CG treasury bills, you have what? Anyway, maybe our children will do that. Yeah. So, by the time now I am going into soko and into fresh produce, it's because, one, I have given myself a challenge. And I've said, for 1 year, you will not look for a job no matter how hard it gets. You will not throw in the towel, you will not quit. You're only quitting if this thing, you are absolutely certain that business is not for you and it is not for business. From there, we will work our CV, tuende tafuta kazi, na tukubali kukua civil servant ama employee until 60 and be happy.
Had you, in therapy maybe, picked up that serial starter, serial dropper thing? I'm asking for myself, because I know if there is some treatment, I can also pursue it.
No, that came from self-analysis. The more aware you are about yourself.
I see.
The beauty with therapy is you tend to have there are those conversations that we don't want to have with ourselves. But eventually we have to stand in front of the mirror and be like, there are things that are not going quite right, and we can't blame. We can't say it's any other person but you, So yeah, it's really from the self-awareness that I've gotten from therapy season 1. And so you're able to see a pattern.
To see a pattern there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're able to see a pattern and tell yourself, here, there's a problem. So can we, commit?
Okay.
So But also, what I later realized was in 2006, when my dad retired as a teacher, he did not want to continue teaching. He chose to go and become a farmer and bought land in Metongo. As he was farming, he had the idea that his daughter and his sister, who are in Nairobi, will market the produce. But now surely you cannot tell a fresh
by then
fresh graduate when kwanza wa the university.
Si ndio hata mimi nimekuuliza Dorcas. Yani you put you know the university. Yani you put those papers down.
My friend, at the end of the day, money when it is in the bank. Aiendangi kisema how it is
earned. True.
It's still equity, balance ya mkulima, balance ya conductor, balance ya CEO, yote ni pesa. And you see now, the reason why I had to do that was because I needed to settle this thing once and for all. If I do something comfortable, then itakuwa rahisi sana. Kikiumana, itakuwa rahisi sana kurelease na kusema, take time out.
Yeah, true.
But now the idea was to challenge myself and put myself through such an experience. The mere thought, after what I have gone through, the mere thought of quitting was never going to happen. But now later is when I realized I was actually fulfilling my father's vision.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. But this is years later?
10 plus years later.
So now, fast forward to 2020.
Fast forward to 2020. Dorcas has done 2018.
Okay.
She's put the things I put my body through in 2020. It actually went on strike on me. This body I would carry like 15 kgs of like produce on my back and have another paper bag over here and here. Because you're starting out, it's not like you have capital. You don't have the luxury to take a boda. Thank God these days I can take a boda. You know, you have to find a way to minimize your costs so that your margins are higher, your profits are high. So I do that. I moved to now 45 because my produce used to come mainly from Meru. Made sense. It's one way. It's dropped from there. Hata kama I don't have any other money, itakuja tuuze tupate pesa ya kulipa the person who bebada. So 2019, I got a short-term contract with KYOP, which is good. It was a really good thing. Because now at this time, I'm realizing before I was doing fresh produce so that I can go and build my consultancy in communication and digital marketing and communication, because that's my area of study. But now I'm realizing I have this passion for small business, people. I love impacting knowledge. And so now my focus is shifting from now still consulting, but not necessarily purely in communication and digital marketing, but also now business growth and addressing some of the challenges that I have gone through as a small business owner, some of the mistakes I have made, helping others not make the same mistake. So KYOP was very good in terms of validating and rubber stamping that line of thinking, because basically what we were doing, we were implementing the BDS. BDS is Business Development Services of the program, because KYOP was too stringed. It used to have the training aspect where there are some who would go and get trained, get vocational skills, and then it had the others who were already in business or had been tested and had shown a high business acumen, so they would get the training, the knowledge first, and then we'd go and coach them, whether to set up their business or in the businesses they were running. And then, of course, the salary is a blessing and a curse, because the minute you get used to a salary, you've taken yourself back to prison. So I took myself back to prison. And then now 2020, I go back and I'm like, no, Dorcas. Because of course, anytime I work, I've not yet gotten to the level where I can work and still run my business. I admire those people who are able to do. For me, they are geniuses. So anytime I'd go back to work, my business
would
suffer.
Okay.
So 2020, once again, I'm like, no. We go back to 2018. We put in the work that the business needs to grow so that now we can scale. And then in February, I get a call from someone who we go to church with. Anyone who calls me by my middle name, Gaki, I know that's someone who really knows me. You know, there are those people, there are those names that not anybody. It's either a family member or someone who knows me from way back. So I go and get this short-term contract with as a show house rep. One of the projects that she was doing along Kiambu Road. And then COVID happens. COVID is a golden goose that laid the golden egg for people in my business.
Okay.
But where is Dorcas? On Kiambu Road, employed. Doing everything that she should not be doing. And her business, this time, you know, it's scaling time, because I think for a period of 3 months, people were home. They were not coming out.
Yeah.
But once again, I don't do things unless I have laid down the system. So for me, I'd rather miss an opportunity. Maybe it's not a good thing. I'd rather miss rather than do and not do well. So, and then I go, it's an entry-level job. Dorcas has had 10 years of experience. Now, to tell her, she has a business that needs to be growing and thriving. Now she has to come and sit and wait for customers, because I was a show house rep. So there's no schedule, there's nothing much you're doing other than
you're
keeping yourself
basically dependent on whether the customers show, and at what time they would show up.
So, and then there are certain things that I was not happy about. But now, one of the other things now this made me realize was I didn't know how to, I have an issue with you, if we have a point of conflict, I wouldn't just come and have a conversation with you and be like, hey, by the way, Judy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, especially if you're my friend, especially in an employment situation. What I'll do is create drama. I'll start acting up.
You start, I call it doing.
Yes.
You start doing.
I'll start doing. So that we have a kamkutano. Because after all, doing will definitely create a reason for us to have a meeting.
To talk.
And then when you're meeting and you're reprimanding me and telling me all the bad things I have done and why I need to change, then I'll sneak in my agenda and be like, by the way, acha mimi, kuna kitu. That is if I am lucky. So now, because I'm not happy about some things here, once again, what does Dorcas do? I keep asking for my contract, because I'm like, if I get a contract, the contract will address these things, and I'll be able to be like, no, he, hapana. You see? But of course, because with bosses, when it favors them, they will take forever. When now, the shoe is on the other side, my friend. It will not even take 1 hour to be done with you and make decisions.
Correct.
So basically that happened. So I start not showing up for work, and the works. And basically I am literally waiting for the meeting so that now I can be like, hey, I'm not happy about X, I'm not happy about Y. So anyway, I'm let go in June.
Okay.
And then in July is when I have this realization that, oh my God, Dorcas doesn't know how to stand up for herself. Dorcas all along has been thinking she's Mother Karua. She's the mini Mother Karua. Kumbe, she's the farthest from that. I can advocate for other people. I will fight for other people. I will stand up for other people. But when it comes to Dorcas, I'll shut up. I'll not have a voice. I can't speak for myself, except when now I create drama, so that now I can be able to sneak in my agenda. And so I remember I was so shocked. That hit me and scared me, because I imagined that if I don't deal with this thing now, I will raise my daughter to be like me. And for the life of me, I could not, I could not imagine raising my daughter to be like me. And so I did a post where I shared bits of my story and the realization that, hey, this is how I've come here.
You did a post on
Facebook, yes.
Okay.
On my Facebook page. I think I did like 3 or 4. I did a series called them Post-Birthday Reflections. I'm a July baby. So it's still my birthday month. I am still accepting cakes.
We get them in.
Yeah. So, and of course, because my story is heavily connected to my family, of course, that means trouble with a capital T. Because, like you asked, what happens when you start working? Remember my therapist word, when you change, people will change. But you see, you don't have power over what people do or say. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey. In 2020, I found my voice. I started speaking for myself. 2020 is when now I started now dealing with the truth issues.
Okay. Did you do that in therapy?
Partly, no. Some of it was now me realizing. Because the beauty, I think, with therapy is even 10 years down the line,
you can still remember
whatever you learned,
Correct.
You could have done, the lesson might have been 10 years ago, but practical application can be 10 years later. So, of course, I started that. And it's been a very interesting journey. It's been a very lonely journey because, of course, the minute you go a certain way, there are consequences.
Correct.
And there is a price to be paid. But hey, for the healed whole version of me, she's worth every investment. She's worth every sacrifice. She's worth every pain. So yeah, that has been now 3 years. And then, of course, COVID had its own issues and its own for us. Single, no child, living alone. My friend, it hit different.
It's a whole different ball game.
It hit different. Kwanza ukiweka hapo extrovert, my friend. People, because now, before any time I needed to visit, I didn't need to think. I'll just pop in. As in, there are places, there are literary houses I knew even if at 12 midnight. Nikifika nitapata mtu wa kunifungulia. Now, with COVID, you don't want to ask and put them under pressure to say yes, and they're not comfortable. So what do?
You withdraw. Now,
yes.
I want you to connect something for me here.
Yes.
All along, you've mentioned God, and I get the impression that you're somebody who's very in touch with God and with your spirituality.
Yes.
How or where does God fit in when you're going through these mental health struggles?
Well, God was always in the story. He was always in the picture. At there times, I was convinced he had abandoned me. Absolutely. At there times, I thought he forgot me. Yes. For the longest time, my Facebook profile was Dorcas. It was Doc Kiki Blessed. Doc for Dorcas, Kiki for Gaki, and then Blessed. Because when I put that in 2012, when I put that name as a reminder to myself that I am blessed of God. Because at that point in my life, I felt like God's stepchild, like God's forgotten child. Because I got born again in my 20s. Well, I did the normal, but by our generation standards, I was a holy Joe. I was a saint. I remember one of my friends saying, I grew up too fast. So basically, I was a girl who had lived life according to the script, who had done all that was required of her. And in 2004, as due to certain things that had happened in my life, I remember I got someone, I was like, hey, my friend, kuna vyenye you're not holding up your end of the bargain, na mimi, acha niende kwa dunia, nikaone what hii dunia has to offer.
What it has,
And that's when I was in campus and we partied with my cousins and danced. I love dancing. And danced and did all the crazy things that we would do. But still, there's always
that
thing. And the Lord, in his own mercy, sent me a gentleman to break my heart, a good one, and send me back to his feet. And so God has always been part of this story. He's been part of the journey. He's been part of the process. Because remember, God uses broken vessels.
Yes.
And the breaking process is not pretty. You know, and in fact, he knows if it shows us prior, in advance, we will be like, hapa, hii moto hatuingi. Mimi, niingie kwa furnace nikijiona, kuna jokes.
Yeah,
You're like, give me, we'll always bargain, we'll always want to. So at times he allows us to go through these experiences so that then he can break us. Once he's broken us, then he can use us for his glory. So God has been and still is.
Okay.
And part of the reason why it never got to really crazy levels, I think, is because I never quite knew what I would stand before him and tell him had done with my life. Yeah.
In terms of mental health, and I know that sometimes there's those dark spots, and when it gets dark in mental health, it gets really, really dark.
Yes.
What could you say is one of your darkest moments?
Wow. 2022, February to mid-May. And the funniest thing is, you know, before it would happen and I didn't know what was happening. Now I knew, as in. And I look back right now and I'm like, really, Dorcas? Why? You know, how did you get to be in that space for that long? Because from 2020, I would have periods where it would be like a week or 2 weeks, or I'd be in the house, not leave, and the work, and then get out. This was now the longest I would get to stay indoors and no contact and spiral downwards. So remember, I've gone back to my business, and then I got a really good employee, and then my very good employee who was running my business perfectly and had basically fired me from my business. The kibanda, that one I didn't need to be there. I just needed to ensure there's stock and everything would be taken care of. So she has to leave because whoever was taking care of her child has to go and nurse the mom who was unwell.
Okay.
And at this point is when now Dorcas is ready for takeoff. Everything is settled. She has left work. She's now back ready to conquer the world. So balloons. And then now, of course, the emotions that came with writing my story, the aftermath that came with that, also had an impact, which I realized later that is also part of what was happening. So from 2020 to 2020 through to 2021, it had been an up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down season. And then now come 2022 is when you're like, yay! Finally, we are over that. The worst is behind us. I know I need to go back to therapy. I know I need to go back to therapy, but I don't go back to therapy for one reason or the other. And then February happens. And February, I come from Mombasa. I get this trip. My friend works for these guys who the good employers, the ones who appreciate you for jobs well done. So the top performers, them and a friend of theirs, of their choosing, we go to Mombasa, fully paid holiday for 2 days. SGR, come back by flight. So you're like, yay, what a way to start the year. You know, that is setting the precedent. 2022, we are killing it. I come back 6th February, and wherever I put my bag, wherever I came with from Mombasa, is where it remained, and I go to bed. At this time, there are some renovations happening in Soko, which I am aware of, and they're doing it in sections so that there's not too much disruption. And then they get to now where my kibanda was located. And of course, the kibanda is brought down, but hey, we knew this was going to happen anyway. And yeah, it is giving us time to plan and strategize so that now when, you know, we come back, we are coming back full stream. And then the kibanda is rebuilt. So I keep checking. So this time before that, those 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 month, we're okay. As in, we're just waiting for kibanda and then we will resume. In fact, I even tell someone, oh, there's some money I owe. They have, hold it so that you can send me as produce. If you send me now, I'll kula, then I'll be in trouble. And then kibanda is built. And then voila, someone else has it. And I'm like, Allah, kwani, how do these things go? So I think that was the trigger that now started me on this downward spiral. And I remember I was really angry with God. Hey, that one we had kuikosana. We were all bets were off. Anything was on the table. So I think looking back, I say I gave myself time to go and see, explore the world and see what the world has for me. And then at the end of the 3 months, and with my pastor coming to look for me in my own house, I was like, now clearly there's no other God I am waiting for. And since it is not for lack of opportunity, nimejipea time and space. So yeah, so my faith, I think from 2020 we've had a season, an interesting season, which of course tends to happen when things are a bit difficult. We tend to question our faith in God. Is tend to wonder, kwani ni sisi tu tuliandikiwa machida? Kwani soft life tunaonanga watu wakiishi? Sisi hatuwezi ishi soft life, ama tukiishi soft life itakuwa hard life. So yeah, but I thank God that I also went through that, because it is important for, as a believer, to know who you believe and to know why you believe. And
so, sorry, proceed.
Yes. So who you believe is God, and that God is not the God of the Bible. Yes, we meet through the Bible, but he has to become a personal God. He has to, when you call him provider, it's not because you've read at the 5 fishes and 2 loaves, or 2 fishes and 5 loaves. It's because you know him. He has provided for you. When you call him healer, it's because he has healed you. When you call him protector, it's because he is protected over you. When you call him Ebenezer, it's because, so all these things, the only way for me to know God in those contexts is for me to go through an experience where I need him to heal me. Is for me to go through an experience where I need him to provide for me. Is for me to go through an experience where I need him to protect me, where I need him to fight for me, where I need him to cover me. You see? And the reality of the Christian faith is, I know we don't like hearing it, but we were told, we actually got the Mwakenya, we were told, in this world we will suffer many troubles, but be of great cheer, because I have overcome the world. So this season was also now almost, it actually was a spiritual reawakening, where I stopped being a religious Christian, and I became a follower and a disciple of Christ.
I see.
Yeah.
I want to, before we wind up, I want to take you through support. Did you have a support system? I know you've mentioned a bit about church and the pastor coming in to help you, but also touch on family. Did your family support you through this, these turbulent times?
It's complicated. Yes. They did their best, because really, at times I think we have to learn to be kind and extend grace to people. And also realize we are pioneers. We are making the way. It will be easier for those that come after us. They did. My nuclear family has been very supportive in their own way, They
might not be in the way that you expected or that you wanted, but they have been supportive.
Yes. And extended, it's complicated, but hey, which family does?
Which family is not
complicated? Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah. But I have had a very strong support system in terms of my friends. There are people who have opened up their homes. the people who have made me know that I can go and crash, for lack of a better word, in their spaces. I do not need to crash alone in my house. The people who have made me know that they are okay with my vulnerability, with my issues. They love me nevertheless. Not it's in spite of, or it's irrespective. And I think that has really helped, because I think at the bottom, when all is said and done, we all need to be loved. We all need to be valued. We all need to feel seen. And how we interpret that is different for each person. But really, bottom line, those are the things. The relationship is really important. And so, yes, I have had a strong support system. My church community, my friends, my family. At one point or another, somebody that
let you know that they see you, they hear you, and they care for you.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to finish this interview with one moment of clarity that I want you to clarify for me. Take me back to around 2-3 Sundays ago. You're at the front and you're unable to speak, and you're just overcome with a lot of emotion. What was going on in that moment?
I think when we go through something, we never fully realize the impact of it. And for me, it's something I had been looking forward to. I had told Jennifer, our church secretary, in June, that July is my birthday month and I want to come and give my testimony, and my family will come. We'll also be there so that we can also thank the church. And so I had this plan where I was going to write down, and practice, and even do breathing exercises so that then I am in control. And then I think the service went a different way. The way the service was, everything that happened in that service was
totally what not you had planned.
Yes, because what Pastor shared was almost like it was a trigger to a certain extent, something I can relate with. And then we go and I'm like, really, my parents are not there, so well, we have to do this, but there's like a disappointment, as much as I understand why they couldn't make it. And so I think at that point in time, it was just like, I don't know, I can't really put it in words. It was just
everything coming together.
And also being able to come back and say thank you. Because if my church was not there for me last year, I really don't know. If they were not, there's being loved and then there's being loved. When loving difficult people is not easy, my friend. And when going through these issues, we're not easy to love, So, and knowing that this was not just, there's one where they come once, for sure.
For formality.
Yes, for sure. It's where they came over and over and over, to the extent of now my senior pastor himself saying, this afternoon, whatever it is that I'm going to do, I'm dropping it. I'm coming to look for this girl. Manze, eish, what kind of love is that? And so, for me to have an opportunity to be able to say thank you. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for valuing me. Thank you for standing in the gap. Thank you for living Christ. The embodiment of Christ and what Christ tells us. That I think was a really profound moment for me. Yeah.
And I would want to end this interview on that note. Thank you for coming. I have a feeling we'll have you again.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like there's still something we have to
there's
explore.
Still a lot, yeah.
But I really appreciate you taking your time and for coming in. Yeah. I am not normally left speechless. I'm a person who speaks a lot, and I find it easy to speak. But this episode today has tugged my heart in very many areas. I found myself fighting tears a number of times because everything she said I related with. And maybe you might have noticed I didn't ask as many questions as I normally do because she was just saying what needed to be said. And I really pray and hope that even as you watch this episode, you might get from her what we intended you to get. And I promise you, next time I have her on, I will ask those questions. For today, allow me, because I was also reliving as Dorcas relived her experience. Mental health can be a tough place, can be a dark space, and sometimes it's in us showing kindness, even just by a call, even just by stopping what we were doing and going in and checking in if our friend is okay. That can be the one sliver of hope that someone can hold on to and use it to fight for another day. I've been your host, JF. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving us your time. Please share your feedback. Let us know if there's anything you would want Dorcas to speak about, because you're going to have her again. And don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. See you on the next one.